And it is the Saturday Coffee Klatch with Heather Lofthouse and yours truly, Robert Reich. Heather,
Bob,
how how are how are you? How are you faring? How are you doing?
it's been a long week. A lot of news, a lot of busyness, but I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Somebody said to me this morning, "Oh well, Trump is leaving Minnesota, leaving Minneapolis. It seems like the Trump." The whole Trump thing is over. We can relax now. And I said,
No.
no. I said, no, we can't relax. In fact, it's still in its early stages.
Who is that person? I want what they're having for
Well,
breakfast.
I've been hearing this. People are so
I think they're
desperate
desperate. Yeah.
to just have it over with.
Yeah.
And I can understand that. But we'll get to this. We'll get to that. What do you want to talk about today?
I want to talk about, what do I want to talk about? What are we going? I think we got to rephrase the question.
What
What are
would
we
you like us?
going?
What would you like
What
to
are we
talk about?
going to talk about? What are we gonna talk about? So I think we've got to talk about Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, and Epstein. I know, and Epstein. I really want to get your sense on what's happening with DHS funding. Can we talk about the jobs reports? Can we talk about the polling numbers, which are fascinatingly low for Trump? That's it.
Okay. Well, in terms of Pam Bondi, she testified this week. And I don't know about you, Heather, but I was appalled at the tone. I mean, here we have the Attorney General of the United States, uh, just being so, just telling members of Congress who asked her hard questions, that basically they can go to hell.
I know it. And with the Epstein survivors behind her, not she didn't even acknowledge them. What is the job description of the United States Attorney General? You've worked at the DOJ. This is not, she was up there talking about the stock market, being nasty to people.
Well, I think that talking about the stock market being nasty to people, what she was doing, her audience is not the Democrats. It's not the members of Congress. It's not even the Republican members of Congress. I mean, she's there. Her audience is Donald Trump. She's performing for Donald Trump, and she's performing for the MAGA base. And they're going to use everything she says. She knows they're going to use the content, cut it up, put it up on all of the MAGA features.
Not just MAGA features all over the internet, right? So she's doing this for
that's
clips.
right. This is a performance. I mean, when I was in the Justice Department, Edward Levy was the Attorney General, and he was the model of careful, respectful, dignified Attorney General. I mean, he was the kind of Attorney General. This was a Republican administration. This was a Gerald Ford presidency. And Edward Levy was there to try to restore the moral authority and integrity of the Justice Department after Watergate. After Richard Nixon.
Not an easy job.
And it wasn't an easy job, and he did it. He deserves enormous credit. People don't remember Edward Levy. But you have now the pendulum swinging so far to this kind of petulant, belligerent, angry, performative Pam Bondi Attorney General.
And it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, which is a convicted pedophile and getting the truth out about what happened, which is what everyone said they would do during the campaign. And she's, to your point, I think Trump is such an incredible director of this administration. Director as in it's a movie, and
Yeah.
casting agent. I feel like
He cast all of these people. He
Yeah.
said when he nominated them, when he nominated Pete Hegseth, he said he looks terrific for the part of a defense secretary, and Pam Bondi looks great on television, and Kristi Noem, she has a charisma on television. This is what these people were hired for.
It feels like it's so many people have left the DOJ, right? So many people who held important roles. The power of the federal government, that's who was prosecuting around drug trafficking and all this stuff. It's just being decimated. Watching what they came in saying, government's dysfunctional. Watch us optimize and make it better and, cut the fat. And it just feels like no one is driving the car. And it's bad, Bob.
And nobody is driving the car. And the Justice Department is one of the key departments of the government. I mean, Defense, Justice, and the State Department are the three oldest departments. They're the most important departments. They're very large. They set the tone for the entire United States. And now look at what you have. Incidentally, I meant to ask you about this. Heather, do you think, I mean, I'm looking at people like not just Pam Bondi, but also Kristi Noem, the Carolyn Levitt. I mean,
Yeah, Caroline Levitt, the press secretary.
I mean, you have Trump's. I'm not singling out Trump's women. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not a sexist pig, but I am interested that these women seem to be very belligerent in public.
I think it's typecasting, and I think it's a shame because I think there are so many smart women out there who could be in these roles, and I think he picks these people who will follow his lead, and what they are focusing on is being deflective and defensive. I mean, that's what it is. It's not, the press secretary is not answering questions. Pam Bondi is not representing the United States and being, a rational, thoughtful, someone leaning into her Juris Doctorate. I mean, that's not what's happening in there. I think it's this interesting role of the female who's just defending him, and it's a very specific thing they've taken on of like, I am now mad at you. Nope. What I am saying is something different than that. I mean, it's this tone of defensiveness and the deflection of, like Pam Bondi when she said, what we should be focusing on is the stock market is over 50,000. Why is she talking about that in a hearing about a pedophile? What is that? So we don't talk about pedophiles if the stock market is high? I mean, that's the most money in politics and screwed up thing I've ever heard.
And she's sitting on, 2.5 million Epstein files that she and the Justice Department still refuse to make public, even though Congress has passed a law, bipartisan law, overwhelmingly saying all of the Epstein files have to be made public. So what, she certainly is deflecting, certainly is performing for Trump and the MAGA base. Incidentally, I was wondering this morning, thinking about all of the people who have been implicated in the Epstein scandal, whose names have come up repeatedly. I'm not talking about just a handful, but repeatedly. And what do they have in common? I mean, Woody Allen, Ken Starr, do you remember Ken Starr, who was going up, and Bill Clinton, the two of them together, Kevin Spacey? I mean, Larry Summers, Prince Andrew, Howard Lutnick, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, obviously, Noam Chomsky. I mean, what is the common denominator here? They're not all pedophiles, I don't think. There's no proof. So what is it?
I mean, I think it's people in power seeking to retain power, people without power wanting power, and thinking, and this man was very compelling to so many people, clearly, because he was connected and got away with all of it. And it was this, it's like reaching for this class, the Epstein class, right, is what
the Epstein class,
some people have been describing it as.
It was interesting. The New York Times, I guess yesterday, referred to these people as the ruling class. The Epstein class, the ruling class. I mean, there is some really basic class issue here, because the people I just mentioned and many others, they go from, the extreme left, I mean, Noam Chomsky, for example,
let's be clear,
to the extreme right, Steve Bannon. But what do they have in common? What they have in common, the Epstein class, the ruling class, they are privileged. They are, by and large, white men, not entirely.
They entirely, we can talk about
huge
that.
Amounts of money. There's a kind of solidarity among them. And what was Epstein doing besides offering some of them girls, children? He was also making connections. He was giving, stock tips, tax tips. He was saying, I'll help you with him. I'll help him with you. I'll get you into this club, this golf club. I mean, it's a kind of a high order of transaction that Epstein was the networker,
the networker connector,
the
important guy, and he wears sweatshirts. He wears sweatshirts.
He put himself at the center
He's an enigma
of this network. And girls, children, and were part of it disgustingly. But also, what you see when you see the Epstein files and you see what these people were trying to get from him and what he was giving them and what they were getting from him, it's this world of wealthy transactions. What the wealthy, the curtain lifted. It doesn't matter whether they're politically left, politically right. Doesn't matter what they say in public. Inside the Epstein ruling class, they are just, exchanging favors.
But also, Pam Bondi could have done more while she was in Florida. Let's be real. That's where so much of it went down.
Yes.
And there was good journalistic reporting on it. And then, I just remember that he was convicted and then he was served 13 months, except for 6 days a week. He got to go home and work in his home office.
Yeah.
Convicted
of the first time.
Soliciting a prostitute or whatever it was. That is, talk about a ruling class. I'm sorry, you get to go home every day and work from your home office 6 days a week. That's a lot of days to be working from home.
Well, that's part of the ruling class, right? You
Right.
have these faux penalties, at least the first time
Right.
around for Jeffrey Epstein, and they don't really, it's not really a penalty.
No, and
it's
the
just for
phrase
show.
"get away with murder"? Yeah, they're getting
Yeah.
away with it.
Yeah, somebody said, I could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and get away with it. And he became president of the United States. He
Twice.
is certainly part of this transactional ruling class.
Do you remember when Matt Gaetz was going to be the attorney general? Can you imagine if he were in charge of these Epstein files and doing the over redactions?
I
I'm
cannot.
now calling it.
I cannot.
That would have been. It would have been easier, actually. It would have been nicer to. I feel like the downfall would have been soon. Now, sometimes I daydream about who is going to follow Pam Bondi. Like, is it going to be like eternal Attorney General who was there? when you
Edward
were
Levy?
there?
Yeah, well, he's not around
he's not
anymore. But
alive,
I don't
I know.
think you're not
But
going to
who's-
you're not going to get anybody that Trump is going to trust.
No,
in
but I'm
that
saying
job.
next after Trump, can we just, I don't mean to
Oh,
be
after
the naive.
Trump.
Yeah, I don't mean to be the naive person who saw you this morning and said, are we good yet? I think we're good. But I am saying, I daydream about how do you rebuild? So much is going to be broken, but it's such an opportunity. And the right person, I feel like, will be able to come in and say, look at all these holes. Look at all these misses. Look at all this infrastructure that has been built inefficiently to prop up the wrong things, and then they get to reconstruct.
Well,
That's
I
going to
think
be
that's
an
a
incredible
good,
opportunity.
That's a good theme, and it's a good way of looking at it. I've suggested that we could not, as a country, as a society, have stayed on the road we were on even before Trump, given the widening inequality, given the corruption, the legal corruption, campaign finance, the corporations getting totally out of control. We were already on a very dangerous road, and Trump has taken essentially a giant wrecking ball to the entire institutions of America. And what you're saying, and I think you're absolutely right, Heather, the next Attorney General, the next Secretary of State, the next people who are the next president have an opportunity. They all have an opportunity to fundamentally rebuild this country and get us on a different road, a road that is sustainable.
And
No, I think this is
dignified.
It's a way of thinking about what's going on now. I sometimes despair, but I think it is an important way of thinking about what's
I
happening.
agree. Can I just say it's nice to have coffee with you? I feel like someone at Trader Joe's the other day, people walk up to me and they say, oh my gosh, the coffee Klatch, you and Bob, thank you. And I'm like, thank you all. If I didn't have this, I feel like I'd be even more depressed and miserable. But I feel like, okay, it's good to be here together going through it. Okay, let's keep going. We're not finished yet. We're not
We
finished
aren't?
yet.
I thought we were
No.
finished.
No. There's a lot on my list. Okay.
Okay, what else?
Other things I want to talk. We could go on about that for a long time. But let's go on to DHS funding. It's been fascinating to watch. So most of our lovely, elected Congress is off for long weekends in Munich. I'm sure we'll have a lot of sound bites next week, so I'll meet you again in a week and we can talk about those. But so DHS is we don't have a funding package, but they have a slush fund. ICE has a slush fund, as it
ICE
were.
has a slush fund. That slush fund was part of the big ugly bill. We talk about it as the big ugly bill that was passed, that went through both the House and the Senate on something called reconciliation, which means the Democrats never had a chance to vote against it. And it did provide ICE with a huge fund. I mean, it's my note is that it's 75 billion. Somebody else said it was for ICE and for Border Patrol 141 billion. Well, that's enough to get them through this closure. But it's still important to close down Department of Homeland Security, if for no other reason, Heather, than to register Democrats' abhorrence of what techniques ICE has been using to reflect public anger and
Right. And the leaders that have been green
outrage.
lighting it all.
Yep.
But so, okay, so listen, they're out of Minnesota now, Bob. I mean, we
Well, they're
had
not out of
Homan.
Minnesota. Now, Tom Homan, who,
Right.
as the borders are, he's now in charge of ICE. They're leaving Minnesota. They haven't left
leaving.
yet. But remember, Heather, Stephen Miller's goal of 3,000 deportations a day, which includes a lot of arrests, a lot of people being put into detention. There are now 73,000 people held in detention facilities because they were arrested by ICE or Border Patrol. Many of them have not had a chance to see a lawyer. They have not had any due process. Many of
know.
them are there. They have
Terrific. And so many are legal.
because of the
and so
color
many-
of their skin, because
know.
of their last names sound like they're Hispanic. They are, many of these people are here legally, but maybe they are here as refugees and their refugee status has not yet been determined, or maybe they're on green cards. Maybe they were involved in a demonstration against whatever the
Right.
the
Maybe they
Trump
overstayed a
administration.
visa 2 visas ago. I mean, they really are picking anything. You saw
But
the
these-
raid in Idaho?
Ugh.
The raid in Idaho, which was actually based on the color of people's skin. I mean, it was, and they went to this horse race track.
Well, this is going on, and this is what I emphasize to the people who said to me, "Oh, it's all over." It's getting worse. It's not over. I mean, you have these are Trump's brown shirts. They're going from Minnesota. They're going other places around the country. They are heading wherever they hear there are immigrants. There are communities that are scared, justifiably.
But also, they go into Minnesota. It's the worst. You have no idea. It's terrible. It's the worst. They murder people. And then now they're like, listen, we've done the bulk of the work. We've done it. We're going to start retreating. I mean, but what is that about face? I mean, are you kidding me? There wasn't really a problem. You didn't solve an imaginary problem. It was horrific what happened on the ground there.
Well, the politics here are very clear. I mean, Trump and the people around him are looking at the polls. They see that Americans are turning against this kind of extreme immigration control. They don't like it. Even a lot of Republicans are saying no. And so what does Trump do, and what does ICE and what does Kristi Noem do? Well, they make a show of leaving Minnesota. Fine. But remember, ICE is still recruiting, and they're recruiting the worst kinds of people. They're not training people well, and they're going all over the country to reach these quotas.
I know. And one other thing is the percentage of people who have committed violent crimes. The news is exaggerating it. Trump and everyone else is exaggerating it. And it's actually very low. 14% or something was the latest one I saw of these people.
This is hugely important.
Yep.
I mean, Trump said he's going after the worst of the worst. Remember? Mm-hmm. He's not going after immigrants, just all immigrants. He's not going after people not everybody who doesn't have a documentation. But he says he's going only after the worst of worst. But it turns out that, as you just said, 14% of the people who are arrested by ICE and the Border Patrol, only 14% have any serious criminal violations or even criminal arrest. Most of these people, if they have any records at all, these are civil problems.
issues.
They are problems having to do with car registration or overstaying their visa. As you said, most of these people, and many of them, are in terrible detention centers. They're not getting the medical attention they need. We hear, there are a number of children,
Did you
hundreds of
see those
children.
clips this week of this Irishman, Seamus Culleton, I think his name is, who called into a radio show in Ireland?
The best way I could describe it is probably like a modern day concentration camp. It's a bunch of temporary tents. There's probably room for 1,000 detainees in each tent. I believe there's like 5 tents. I've been locked in the same room now for 4.5 months. I've had barely any outside time, no fresh air, no sunshine. I'm in fear for my life down here, honestly, because people have been killed by the staff here, by the security staff, and you just don't know what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis. You don't know if there's going to be riots. You don't know if there's going to be, you don't know what's going to happen.
And so that was the first time we really heard from someone who said, look, I'm going to tell you like it is. And I don't know exactly, but he is in the middle of applying for his permanent residency. He's married. And he has a work permit currently. I think in the past he overstayed a visa, but he's been in for 5 months.
Well, and I'm glad that his what he said
Story, yeah.
Became viral. I mean, we need more people and more witnesses as to what's happening, in these detention camps. I mean,
the Minnesota, yeah.
Now it's the issue. It's a crime against humanity. It's a moral blight on this country. We are all, in a way, complicit because it's being done under our name with our tax dollars, and it continues. And I'm talking about they're converting warehouses, Heather,
I know,
into detention facilities.
Well, they're trying to, because many of them are not actually happening.
Well, some communities are saying no.
Back. Right.
That's right.
3 cheers for the Twin Cities and everyone who held strong and just put the pressure to stop doing what they were doing.
Absolutely. Twin Cities, we salute you. We salute people of Minneapolis and St. Paul and how well you did. And by the way, the fight even in there is not over because there's still going to be ICE agents and patrols around. But look what they did. In terms of working together, protecting the vulnerable, getting food and making sure people had transportation to schools and to hospitals and what they needed. I mean,
and individuals stood up and did kind of informal support, and we had unions standing up, and we had obviously nonprofits and government and the for-profit. I mean, everyone, all the sectors came together.
When the history of this dark, miserable fascist era is written, I think Minneapolis and St. Paul and the people of Minnesota are going to make history in the most positive way, showing that average Americans really did not simply sit back.
Did you see in The Atlantic? I liked this term, this phrasing. David Graham, I think it was, wrote that Trump basically and his administration are doing something which is equivalent to, you can't fire me because I just quit. And it does feel like that kind of the turnabout that he does after we're going into Minnesota. I'm buying Greenland. Taking
that's what
over
he
Greenland.
That's this is a 6-year-old, right? I mean, you don't give me a Nobel Peace Prize, so I'm giving up on peace and I'm going into Greenland. Or you're not performing at the Kennedy Center. Okay, I'm going to close it down. Damn it! All this kind of you didn't like what I was doing in Minnesota. Okay, I'm getting out and I'm going to go do the same thing elsewhere. I think it is a 6-year-old adolescent. It's kind of pre-adolescent, right? Isn't it?
It is. And it does remind me a little bit of the approach that Pam Bondi and Caroline Levitt do, right? Which is like, oh, well, nanny, nanny, boo. If you're going to say that, I'm going to say it times 10 and deflect and move over there. And we don't feel like we're in the land of reality and debate. And I mean, I know.
We're the land of adults. We're not even
we're
in the land of adults. We're in the land of the angry children.
I know. Ugh, petulant. Okay, so the jobs report this week, better than we thought in some ways. Can you help break it down for us? I mean,
Yeah.
most of the jobs were in the healthcare industry. What does it all mean?
Well, look at January's jobs report, which was delayed, of course, because of the shutdown. It came out Wednesday, and it showed 130,000 new jobs for January. And everybody is, the Trump administration is saying, hooray, hooray, hooray.
Told you so. We're the best.
Well, what they don't talk about is that same jobs report for January that came out Wednesday showed revisions. They revised on the basis of new information they got in, more accurate information. They revised downward the number of jobs that were created last year, the first year of the Trump administration.
Just to be clear, this is what we do. This is how statistics and quant works. You get new numbers in and you revise the old numbers because you have more data that makes it more accurate.
That's right. It's not because you made a mistake. It's just more data are coming in. So we now know that per month, the first year of the Trump administration, 15,000 new jobs a month. 15,000. That is almost nothing. And as you just said, Heather, almost all these new jobs, including January's new jobs, were healthcare or healthcare related.
So what does that mean? So why is that problematic or not problematic, notable? I mean, what does that tell us?
Well, it tells us basically we're not creating many new jobs because, number one, obviously the baby boomers like me are getting old and decrepit and we need healthcare. And so we predicted...
You're living so long.
But we predicted that there would be a lot of jobs, and there are a lot of jobs in healthcare. But these jobs, apart from, if you're a brain surgeon, you're going to make a lot of money. But most of these jobs don't pay very well. Many of them are, nurses and attendants, and they are elder care. And, they're jobs that are basically the service economy for healthcare reasons, and they are not great jobs.
And let's be clear, they skew to be having these roles are held by women, right?
Most of them are held by women. That's exactly right.
And so at the same time as all this is happening, what has been happening in terms of the Labor Department and the Fair Labor Standards Act? So then my understanding is Obama says, you know what, this industry, we need more overtime. Let's make it more compelling. There's a lot of turnover. It's something like 80% turnover.
Yeah.
And so let's really put in some protections for workers. And now Trump is saying, you know what, it costs family too much for that. You know what, forget it. We don't care, which means these people will have to take on extra jobs.
Exactly.
It means there will be even more turnover. So at the same time that these healthcare jobs are the only ones that are being added to the economy, the way it's structured is going to make there be higher turnover, less good pay. And so it doesn't seem like these numbers are going to be sustainable.
No, and this is why, the other thing we should make sure everybody understands about these jobs. In healthcare, you've got a lot of immigrants. Some of them are undocumented. And the only other sector where we have almost any job creation is construction. Where do you have a lot of immigrants? In construction. So as Trump, basically purges the United States economy of many immigrants, some of whom are here legally, by the way. Let me just emphasize that, because they sound like, or they are alleged to be here illegally. Then what happens to your healthcare market, your healthcare jobs where you need people? And what happens to your construction jobs when you need people? And these are, again, as you just said, many of these jobs are not great jobs. In the construction world, they pay much better than the healthcare jobs, but they are dangerous jobs. Many of them are jobs that a lot of Americans who are here legally don't want. They are, why are we not talking about the quality of the jobs that are being created?
That's because there's no nuance, right? So it's just, they just run with these numbers and then they look at America and they say, see, jobs are up, stock market is up-ish, it is. Inflation isn't that bad. So are people happy?
Well, that's the point. Americans, regardless of these reports and these economic reports, it turns out most Americans are very unhappy with the economy. Consumer confidence is way, way down. We do have ways of measuring this, but also all of the surveys, all of the polls. When you
Right.
ask people, are you better off than you were a year ago?
Did you
Are
see
you
that?
better?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but did you see that third way poll about young men? So as we remember, young men, Trump swung them by 18 points, including young men of color. That's 18 to 29, swung them over to him in the last presidential election. And young men now are not happy. They say, my finances are not better off, and the overall disapproval ratings are higher. And so that was interesting to see.
That's
2
very
days ago.
fascinating. I mean, 58% of young men, and remember, this is very core Trump MAGA territory. 58% of young men say that they have been affected negatively by Trump's policies.
Financially, yeah.
And, Heather, remember, one of the reasons he is elected in 2024, Donald Trump, is he says he's going to bring prices down.
I know.
Prices are not going down.
He said a lot of
Though,
stuff.
even though inflation is going down, prices are not going down, and there's a difference. Inflation has to do with the rate at which prices are increasing. But what Trump said is, I'm going to bring prices down. He's not bringing prices down. Everybody knows that.
And even
this
a
is
Fox News poll came out, right?
right.
54% of respondents saying
Say they
not-
are worse off
Yeah.
under Trump than they were under Biden. 54%
Fox
on the
News.
Fox News
Yeah.
poll. I mean, this does not portend well for Trump and Republicans in the midterm elections. Now, anything can happen between now and the midterms, as we know. Trump may try to stop the midterms. In fact, there's a lot of indications that he is going to try to discourage people from voting, mail-in votes. I mean, this is the man, remember, who tried to stage a coup against the United States in 2020 when he didn't win.
And there's more states can be doing, but we need the midterms really are so critically important. And you have all this money already flowing in. You wrote a Substack about, look out for crypto and AI. I mean, AI, we have not had big AI elections, right? So I just saw that Anthropic just put in $20 million to a super PAC. And
Anthropic, the big AI company.
Yes, and
Anthropic, okay.
OpenAI had also already put in $20 million to a super PAC. I mean, they are poised. Now, why? Because they need to, first of all, regulations, first of all, and then second of all, their data centers, right? I mean, they're trying to build these data centers in places that are going to, near schools and homes, and they are looking for power.
And these data centers are using up huge amounts of electricity. They are using up huge amounts of water. They are ecological and environmental pariahs. And a lot of people are saying, I don't want that data center in my community. And so there's a lot of, and a lot of these communities are, they voted for Trump. These data centers are being put in places that had been Trump voters and Trump areas and red communities, red states, red districts, because they assumed that these people would be very collaborative. They would welcome these data centers. But no, the data centers themselves are becoming a political issue.
Of course, everything's political. And you saw this week in terms of the EPA that Trump came out and said, I'm repealing scientific findings that we kind of put a stamp on as a government as true.
The endangerment. This is important. This was a finding in 2009 under the Obama administration that the kind of pollution, the kind of environmental degradation that we are now experiencing is endangering human life, endangering life on the planet, and obviously endangering Americans. And that was a very important finding in terms of building more environmental protections. And what does Trump do? He gets rid of this finding. Why? Because
Repeal.
Because of his friends in the oil, in the oil and coal industries, because basically he thinks environmental problems and the whole environmental movement and climate change, he calls it a hoax.
But does he actually think that, or does he just live by
I don't.
it.
I don't think he thinks anything. I think he's an opportunist.
You
And
always say
and
that.
when the oil barons and when the coal barons and when all of the dirty energy people came to him and said, "We'll support your campaign in 2024," and remember he had that deal going
No.
with the oil companies. You give me $1 billion for my campaign, and I'll deregulate completely. Well, we don't know exactly what that deal was, entailed, but we know that this is exactly what Trump is doing.
It's
And
so
these,
much deregulation. I mean, there was that whole thing in El Paso this week where it was like the airport shut down. Oh, no, wait, the airport's not shut down. And then we have Pam Bondi, who's our head lawyer, who's there doing her stuff. It feels so scary that no one, I don't know, that
Pam
just
Bondi
all
is
the
not our head lawyer. She's Trump's,
Trump's
head
head
lawyer.
lawyer. Okay,
The
forgive me,
Justice
you're right.
Department is Trump's own
know, Bob.
law firm now. I mean, this is everything is upside down.
know.
Pam Bondi and Christine Noem and Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and all of them, they are supposed to be working for us. We are supposed to be in charge of them. That's what self-government is all about. But they
And
think,
democracy.
yes, they think they're working for who? They're working for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is working for himself.
Well, and the rest of his family. Let's be real.
And the rest of the
and his
family.
buddies. And his buddies who he also wants to be rich.
I mean, it's absurd. It's
Okay,
absurd.
So one thing you wrote this week that I appreciated was about grand juries and the fact that we should look to what has happened this week in terms of these 6 Dems, right? Can you talk a little bit about this?
Grand juries are very unlike juries that you see in movies, where 12 people come in and they make a decision about whether somebody is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a criminal trial. Grand juries are anywhere from 18 to 26 people. They serve for quite a number of months. And prosecutors, federal prosecutors, go to the grand juries. They appoint the grand juries. They go to the grand juries. They present evidence. There is not a defense attorney at the grand jury. All you have is the prosecutor. The prosecutor is in charge of the grand jury. The grand jury only hears from the prosecutor. And the grand jury, therefore, 99% of the cases, grand juries will do exactly what the prosecutors ask them for, and that is an indictment of whoever it is
X. Yeah.
going to be.
Blank.
And all that means is, and in this case that we're talking about right now, Janine Pirro, that is the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., she went to the grand jury in Washington, D.C. that had already been established, and she said, we've got these 6 Democrats who have, they've posted this horrible stuff that is treasonous, that they should be held criminally liable because they said that if you're in the military or you're in the intelligence community, you have to you have to obey the law, and the law says essentially that if you're given illegal orders, you should not follow illegal orders. That is the law. So
Right.
Pam Bondi's Janine Pirro, who works for Pam Bondi, Janine Pirro says to the grand jury, I want you to indict these 6 Democrats. And what does the grand jury do? The grand jury comes back and they say, no. They said no.
Right. It's
Heather,
a
this
big
is
deal.
very
Yeah.
unusual. It's unusual, at least it was before 2025. I mean, you have a similar thing happen in Virginia. The grand jury said, when the prosecutor, the U.S. attorney, said, I want to indict, I want you to come forward with an indictment of the Attorney General of New York State. And the grand jury said, no, Letitia James, we don't think there is anything here. We don't think there's enough evidence, even for an indictment. And they said no. I mean, you have these grand juries comprising ordinary Americans looking at the evidence, and despite what these prosecutors are telling them, they're saying, no, we're not going forward.
That's my favorite poll of the week.
I think it's amazing.
It's
It really
so
is
good. That
amazing.
really was a seed of hope. You know how you and I are trying to, each week we try and pull some seeds of hope, and you often do that in your Substack. I mean, sometimes you're a little more depressed and less optimistic. And then sometimes you do seeds of hope.
Well, but I think the point that I think needs to be made is that you've got ordinary Americans, whether they're in grand juries or they're on the streets of Minnesota, Minneapolis, or they're in Springfield, Illinois. A lot of those Springfield, Illinois people are protecting the Haitian immigrants there. You know, the Haitian immigrants.
It's Springfield, Ohio.
Springfield, Ohio. Not Springfield, Illinois, Springfield, Ohio. The Haitian immigrants who J.D. Vance and Trump accused during the campaign of eating the pets of other people I mean, just crazy stuff. But those Haitian immigrants need protection from ICE. And what are the people of Springfield, Ohio doing? They are protecting them. And you have across America, Heather, not only in grand juries, but in regular towns and cities, people showing the decency and the kindness and the common sense that is the backbone of America.
It's so heartening to see amidst all the
Well, it's very, very important. And it's very important to keep this in mind.
And then, did you see some Olympians, too, were struggling with what it means to be representing America in the Winter Olympics?
First of all, I'd like to say I'm proud to be here to represent Team USA. I am a lawyer, as you know, and we do we have a constitution, and it allows us to freedom of the press and freedom of speech, protects us from unreasonable searches and seizures, and makes it that we have to, have probable cause to be pulled over. And what's happening in Minnesota is wrong. There's no shades of gray. I really love what's been happening there now with people coming out, showing the love, the compassion, integrity, and respect for others that they don't know and helping them out. And we love Minnesota for that.
He said, we have rights in this country. We have rights to free speech, and we have rights to safety, and we have rights against illegal searches and seizures. I mean, he just laid it all out. This is in the Olympics, the oldest.
Yeah. He's a lawyer, right, by training? Did you just say that?
He's a lawyer from Minnesota.
Right. But of course, if you're the oldest person in the Winter Olympics, you're doing curling. I mean, not that it doesn't require a high level of athleticism.
That's a very ageist thing for you to say.
No, I'm saying,
Heather.
You know the angle for curling? I'd rather be doing that than downhill ski racing at 54, which is only 5 years away for me. Well, I'd rather be doing curling.
Well, you're still very, very young, and
snowboarding.
The curler that we're talking about is very young.
Right, and then you saw that freestyle. There was a skier too who said, "Look, I'm conflicted." He basically said, "I'm conflicted. It's hard. I don't feel like I represent all of the values in terms of what's happening in the country wearing this flag." And I'm here for America. And so it was kind of I think a powerful, honest remark. And then Trump comes back and says, that guy's a loser.
Well, of course, Trump hates this. I mean, look what he said about Bad Bunny. Trump said, you can't even understand what he says. But most Americans,
that's because he's speaking in Spanish. Donald Trump, and he's an American. He's Puerto Rican.
Yes.
I'm just going to brief Trump on what's actually happening. Also, you saw that he was at Mar-a-Lago, and that's what played. He wasn't looking at Turning Point's halftime shenanigans. He was looking at Bad Bunny. Barely. He was like looking at that at the corner of his eye.
But here's the thing. Last Sunday, 128 million Americans saw Bad Bunny and saw that halftime show.
It was so excellent.
Wasn't it wonderful? I mean, it exemplified the fact that this country is based on diversity. This country is based on ethnic and racial diversity, and it doesn't matter where we came from. It doesn't matter where our parents came from. We are here as Americans.
And it uplifted love, and a couple got married, and
well, this is exactly what we're talking about today. This is the reverse side of the corruption and the anger and the kind of belligerence of
nastiness.
Pam Bondi and Trump and Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller and that angry, awful, almost inhumane approach to what this country is all about, bigoted and exclusionary. And you have on the other side all these examples of Americans coming together and really celebrating what's best about this country.
Yep.
In fact, Heather, we do have to come to an end, but I do.
Do we really, though?
Well, we do. You have.
I still have some coffee left. I have like a
Well,
third a cup.
I have a little coffee left too. But what I wanted to say, and you have kind of led me to this, is that at a time when it's not just the Trump administration. It's also, as we started talking about, it is Jeffrey Epstein, the Epstein Class, what the New York Times refers to, ironically, as the ruling class. You've got solidarity among these people who really have turned their backs on the ideas and ideals of America. Starting with Trump all the way through this whole group of people that enabled Jeffrey Epstein and all of the Trumpers and all of the Epstein class. And they are, I think they represent in many ways the worst of America. But simultaneously, we are seeing these exemplars of the best of America. We have the people from Minneapolis and St. Paul. We've got people from Minnesota as a whole. We've got people throughout the Midwest. We've got people in Springfield, Ohio. We've got people who are in the streets, who are helping vulnerable people. We've got people who are demonstrating, who are calling, they're members of Congress, who are being activists, but many people who are just expressing common decency in the face of this indecency. And I think indecency is going to lose. Indecency already is losing. You look at the polls, even among Republicans, more and more Republicans are saying, no, we don't want this kind of immigration control that is going way beyond what we thought was reasonable. Americans, overwhelmingly, 54% of Americans say we don't want this degree of cruelty, in terms of how we enforce our immigration laws. Americans are rejecting indecency, Heather. And all of you out there, I want you to just see this for what it is. It's not over by any stretch of the imagination. When the people yesterday said to me, with a great sigh of relief, we can now breathe easier and freer, that's not the case. It's going to get worse. Trump and his people are going to actually spend much of this year making life even harder. They're going to try to make it difficult for us to vote, for Americans to vote in 2026 in the midterms. But I can't help but feel that we are winning. That is, people who feel and understand the purpose of this nation, that understand that we are not here because we are white, or we are male, or we are Christian, or we are born here. No, we're here because we have common ideals. And those ideals were expressed in places like the Gettysburg Address and Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. And they were expressed by even Bad Bunny's halftime show. The ideals having to do with diversity and freedom and tolerance. And we understand them. I think when the history of this terrible time is written, hopefully we will have a chance to start again in terms of achieving those ideals, starting from the rubble of what Donald Trump and his legions are doing to America. So, Heather, once again, thank you.
Thank you, Bob, and
Well,
everyone
thank
else for
you,
tuning
Bob.
in. Do you tune
Thank
in?
you.
I don't think you tune in anymore.
I think, thank you
just
for everybody
clicking.
joining us today, and we will see you next week.